Welcome back to another Warhammer 40K video brought to you by One Mind Syndicate. I am your host Gershwin, and I'm here with my two co-hosts,
The Sound Alchemist,
Docile Creature.
and today we're going to be judging which faction in 40K should go, which one should be deleted from existence, or at least on the tabletop, right?
Yeah, but I guess we could also incorporate lore into it because you can't just remove something from the game and not have it be.
Because I have a faction in mind, and what I think is that they should be phased out. I don't think they should be completely like retconned or anything like that, because I think it would be kind of weird. Mm-hmm. So those are the grounds. That's our understanding. They still exist, but they just
that's what I kind of base my pick on.
For me, it's the Dark Eldar. Boo. I've talked about this many times before. I don't feel that the Dark Eldar fit the grand scale of 40K. They feel more of a skirmishy kill team type of faction. Even their rules and their codex is always like raids work like this and stuff like that. I think the Dark Eldar should, if not be deleted, thrown in with like a conglomeration of Drukhari, Eldari, and then what's the other one?
Exodites,
Harlequins, Craft World Eldar.
So many of them, man, so many.
Well, the thing is, like, whenever we play 40K, it's never really like how you see in the lore, where it's like entire chapters going to war.
How many models do you actually have on the table? Like, so, what you bring to a 2,000-point game is pretty much a raid anyways.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Like, it's never the full-scale war.
It is, because when you play Space Marines, you don't need an entire company to like do what you got to do.
Yeah, but you bring like 3 squads of dudes in a tank. And
that's
it's like,
enough. Play Space Marine 1. I haven't, but if you play Space Marine 1, you only have Titus and his...
Yeah, it's literally like 3 Ultramarines in that whole game.
So it's not even Titus, right? Titus is from Dawn of War?
No, it is Titus.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Got it right.
Yeah,
so
but
bam.
You're wrong. Here's why I think Dark Eldar, Drukhari are so important. I've created a thesis. Pull up the slideshow. It really breaks down to this. Eldari, or the Eldar in general, are a big faction in 40K. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Maybe second most, besides, like, if we count Chaos as, like, mostly humanity. Like, if we could, like, Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines. You know what I mean?
Well, besides the orcs and the Tyranids...
I don't mean, like, size-wise.
No, Necrons are, like, still asleep.
But
they're there.
Involved in the politics of the universe-wise.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, like, size, because Tyranids and shit.
Yeah.
He's got a thesis. He's right.
Yeah, let me finish, okay?
You asked the question.
Yes.
It was not a question to be answered, right?
It was a leading question. I think that the role the Drukhari are essentially like Chaos Eldari. And I think that's important to have, because pretty much all we have now is like demons and the chaos side of humanity.
Yeah.
And I think other factions being like, we always want more. We want Dark Mechanicum, we want Chaos Guard. We always like having the opposite side of the coin, like chaos wise.
Yeah.
And I think Drukhari fills that slot. They're not exactly chaos, but they essentially are, without like being devoted to chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And it has a place in this game that we play.
I don't think that it's necessary for a faction like the Eldar to have a standalone faction to be like the dark guys. I think what they did when Ivrain was born, Iniad was born, of like combining all of them together. And what was it called? Do you guys remember? The Inari.
Yeah. There. Yep.
That makes sense. Make it an Inari faction and have Kamara, the Craft Worlds, the Exodite Worlds, all into one.
But they're not.
They each have their own clan.
They're all the same race, but they don't all function the same way.
That's like saying
it's the same way with Chaos, right? Like if you look at a Chaos Space Marine, World Eaters don't operate like Thousand Suns.
But they're all devoted to Chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Chaos is all split. So like the Eldar are all devoted to themselves, right? Like that's their whole thing.
But like, and
then popularity-wise, I just don't feel that elves in space is as popular as humans.
That I agree with. Yeah, people probably don't go to Eldar,
right? Because like even then, like I feel like the Harlequins aren't fleshed out enough.
There's not enough units.
Yeah. I would even go as far as to say that the Drukhari don't have enough units. They have like named characters that don't even have sculpts yet. And
Do
how
they?
long have they been playable?
Yeah, but they do have a lot more units than you'd think.
Yeah, but they're dipping into non-Drukhari. So
Yeah,
they
like
have
the snake dude.
Yeah, the snake dude, and they
That's
have
like-
the beast thing with like 4 eyes or some shit.
Sure.
Yeah, and then they have the abominations, which aren't even Drukhari; they're just slaves.
Well, yeah. Well, the Racks are Drukhari, but the grotesque, that's like part of the lore, though. Like
True.
they take
Orcs-
slaves and they turn them into those things.
Orcs have slaves, and you don't see no orc slave models.
That's lame.
That is.
Do they use them in war?
Yeah, they use them in war, but that's the whole point, right? Like the orcs are just so badass and such a good faction that they don't need to like dip into like, oh, what other factions are there in the green skin?
Well, they
culture?
got squigs. They got squigots.
But that's all part of
Those are all
Squiggles.
just squigs, yeah.
Yeah.
And those
So
aren't orcs.
then that's what I mean. Drukhari are like squigs to the Eldari or the Eldar.
No, I think the lizard people and the four-eyed people are like squigs to the Dark Eldar.
No, because they're not related to the Dark Eldar.
They're just like beasts.
Yeah,
From,
Eldar
like-
come from slugs. The 4-eyed beasts come from, I don't know.
Whatever planet they get them from.
Mm-hmm.
That's my faction. And yes, I do understand that there is a lot of people that play Drukhari. Do they even have Titans?
No.
Mm-mm.
That's another thing. If your faction doesn't have Titans, then get the fuck out of here. You have a boat, a really big boat for Forge World.
I want to get that so bad.
It's 2 boats.
I'm like, well, there's only one now. They got rid of one.
No, I'm saying it's 2 boats together.
Oh, sure. They just
Yeah.
tape them together.
It's
yeah.
not even a big ass cool boat. It's just 2 boats.
It's big and cool, but it's not big and cool.
Yeah.
So is that the thing that you liked from the Drukhari, that they're pirates as opposed to just like a sci-fi faction in space?
What drew me to them is the aesthetic. They're like stereotypically evil,
They're
like
pirates.
the blades. Well, they don't look like pirates. It's not like
Emo
they have tricorn
pirates.
hats and they're like
They're
yar.
emo
pirates,
pirates. BDSM pirates.
Well, yeah, BDSM, not emo. They don't not like. Oh, God, you don't even understand me. But yeah, the edgy, like the over the top, edgy, just like evil motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we survive off of torturing people.
No, I get it. I understand why you like the Dark Eldar. I just don't think they should be a faction all on their own.
Well, you're wrong, and I hate you.
Next guy.
Next.
Next, so this one I've been kind of fighting over because, like, I feel like it should be a faction, but at the same time, I don't want it to be its own standalone thing, and that is Chaos Demons.
Oh.
They should be a part of just Chaos Space Marines, Heretic Astartes, because when you think about it, like, what makes them so special that they have their own codicy, their own rules, when like a lot of the rules are already double dipping into the Chaos Codex? You could bring a faction of plague bearers, world eaters, can bring like berserkers or blood, what do they call it? Blood letters? Yeah, blood letters, yeah. So it's like, why make it its own thing, have a whole nother book to get? And like a lot of them, like you could have a demon prince from both armies, but they play slightly different, where I don't think it should be a different thing. Just make it all one.
But to push back on that whole concept, I feel that a chaos greater demon plays differently than a chaos sorcerer or like a chaos lord. So they're 2 different factions. Like they play differently, whereas demons are horde and chaos space marines mimic space marines. So they're more well-rounded.
So that doesn't really make sense because they're 2 different units that have 2 different abilities.
Yep.
You can have both of those units in both armies. You can have a greater demon and a demon prince in the same demon faction.
Yeah, but you can't do more than, 25%? So it's not like you could do a horde army for Chaos Space Marines
True.
or vice versa.
There's the example that I think of first that kind of goes against what you're saying is, especially right now, how much Chaos Space Marines revolves around cultists.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not something that's mimicked in Space Marines.
No.
But that's new.
Just a bunch of horde. They've always had cultists.
Yeah, but they weren't play the same.
They had an ability where, like, when you killed a whole
Yeah, you played it last edition. or the
cultist
edition
squad, they would
before
come
that.
back.
Yeah, but so in the purpose of like the way they play, demons feel different than chaos.
Yeah,
Because then
They don't
with
have
that
any
argument,
shooting.
because then that argument is like, well, then any horde army would feel that way, like Tyranids.
well, no, because
and all
like
that kind of
demons, I don't know if they have it in 10th edition, but in previous editions, they would like deep strike because that's them coming out of the warp.
stuff. Yeah,
And if they took too much losses, they would go back into the warp.
Yeah.
I don't know any other horde army that does that.
that does deep strike.
Yeah, to that extent.
Yes, Chaos Space Marines should have their own little thing. Or not Chaos Space Marines, but demons.
Demons, yeah.
Just for that. Right? So they do play differently, is what I'm saying.
I don't think there's enough, like, in the range of demons that justifies it to have its own codex or be a separate army.
Right.
Like, if you unless you want to play all 4 factions, which I feel like most people don't play all 4 types of demons.
No, there's definitely
army.
a better...
There's like 3 units for each of the 4 gods, and it's like, that doesn't feel like a fleshed out faction to me.
Right.
Lore-wise, though, it does make sense because then demons are to Imperial Guardsmen what Chaos Space Marines are to Space Marines. Does that make sense? Like
They're
Chaos
like the chaff?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think it's one of those things of, well, then in that case, Imperial Guard and Space Marines shouldn't be a separate faction. They should just be one. But they don't. Lore-wise, it just doesn't make sense. Same
I feel
thing
like
with demons.
that would be, I mean, we don't have a range for it, but that would be Trader Guard is the same as Guard is to Space Marines.
Sometimes.
Yeah, there are very few Trader Guard models, but they are out there.
That's what I'm saying. They're expanding on it right now, but that's because in the past, or we've had demons. And I think that's what demons fulfill.
To go back on the other thing you said, I don't think Chaos Space Marines play too similar to Space Marines.
Right.
They're always going to be like 2 steps behind what Space Marines can do. Because even right now, they have a stratagem that costs 2 CP, where the Space Marines have the exact same stratagem for only 1 CP. Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, they play differently. Same thing with demons and Chaos Space Marines. That's why they should be different. That's why they should need their own faction. Also, lore-wise, you're playing a portion of a god. You're not doing that.
But you're
Chaos
playing the
Space
portion of
Marines.
all 4 gods, which seems anti-lore to me.
Or you could do one, like you guys said.
Yeah, but you get,
would
like,
it be
you get
redundant?
1,000 bloodletters and a bloodthirster, and it's like, that's my army.
Well, no, you could do a little bit more, but like that's what horde armies are. Like orcs is just a shit ton of boys. It's like a wave of boys, and then you get like
But you
the
at
little.
least get different units of boys. It's like
No, it's. I mean,
oh, no, look at the range.
Shooters or sluggas, like
They're all boys just wearing different
Yeah,
equipment.
You got storm
basically,
boys, you got tank busters, you got commandos, you have
Yeah.
options. Whereas in like these demon armies, it's just bloodletters.
Like
and
if
then
you
big
want to use a
demons.
battle line, it's literally just plague bearers, demonettes.
Demonettes.
yeah, but that's no different than any faction. Because like with the orcs right now, you have beast snagga boys and boys. That's it. For front,
Right, that's
battle
2.
line.
But let's say you're just playing corn. You don't have any other option
Yeah.
except bloodletters.
Well, yeah, but like that last edition, same thing. Well, you had Gretchen, but nobody really played Gretchen.
That's still
But
an
it-
option.
but it's still an
an
option.
option.
Yeah, but nobody would like. It's not a feasible option. And I'm saying lore-wise, it's that sense of like you're playing demons. You're playing these ethereal things that are coming from the other world.
So then on that boat, I'll kind of mix in my other thing because at the same time, I'm not eliminating them. Or I guess this is the opposite. Whereas I want the demons to be mixed in with chaos. This one, it's like the opposite, where I want the Sisters of Silence to be its own thing apart from the Custodes.
I agree with that.
Isn't that the same problem, but in reverse?
Exactly, yeah.
Like sisters, what units would they have?
They don't have
They would just
anything
hold
really.
different guns. Like
Right.
even if they did flesh them out, like and give them their own new line, will they just get sisters rhinos and sisters land raiders?
That's the thing. Like
and
I
then
feel
just
like
sisters with different guns.
yeah.
Well, at this point now, it's not even because what we're
I'm
saying is
eliminating
like
them
yeah
from the codex.
then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I think comparing. Like saying like what if like GW can create anything really like they don't have to do just sisters rhinos or sisters of silent like they have the whole rule or the whole theme of them capturing psychers. Could you imagine what they can do with like just rogue psychers that they have them in cages and they use them as like some type of like I don't know like dreadnought like thing or something.
They just like carry nukes around
Yeah.
with them, but they
So-
don't affect
yeah.
them. So they're just like
Yeah, something cool like that for sure.
But then I feel like that's kind of similar to the Sisters of Battle, and they got that one dude on that crucified
penitent
robot.
engines.
Yeah, and like everything kind of like mimics, right? Like there are mechs throughout the entire range.
Yeah.
But I do agree that like Sisters of Silence and Adeptus Custodes, putting them together feels weird.
Should we get heretical?
Let's go. What's
Because
your
my
take?
choice is actually Custodes.
Get
I
rid of
agree.
them.
Get
I
rid of
agree.
them. Because I think they have the same problem that you have with Drukhari.
Yeah.
It's like they're meant to protect the Emperor. and they're only fleshing out the lore. They're sending out places because they made them an army, and they don't want to be like, oh, the only time the Custodes can play is when they're defending the Imperial Palace.
Yeah.
That seems super lame to me. Like I mean, I get like they're hyper elite, like they're all captains basically, and they have some cool dreadnoughts. The models are cool, but they don't feel like an army. They feel like some bodyguards.
Kill team.
For some reason are not even kill team. Well, I guess kill team, but like even then, it's like, why are we playing Custodes? They should be these like badass figures that are just protecting the Emperor because that's what they do, right?
Yeah, I agree. Or they should be treated like assassins for the Imperial. Well, I don't even what. Where are assassins?
Imperial agents. Yeah.
They should be treated that way, which they were 5th and 6th edition,
I believe,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. The one thing that saved Adeptus Custodes for me, as far as like, okay, I can kind of believe an entire army of Adeptus Custodes fighting, is the story of there was like underneath the vaults of Terra, there was or the vaults in the Himalayan mountains, there was a like catacombs full of just strange things that were captured during the Great Crusade. They broke out. So now the Adeptus Custodes have to go out and search for them. So they sent out parties to kill these things. That sells it for me.
Sure. But like, can they just send Minotaurs or some shit? Like they still got to protect that area. Why are they leaving?
Yeah, and like in their defense, they're supposed to go out now because of Gilliman saying like, hey, you guys have to like go out and defend the Emperor actively instead of passively. So yeah, they're being split up. That's why you have like the Achillean Guard and different types of like factions within them. They're not just all the gold banana boys. You got the white and gold, the black and gold, etc. So there are more of them doing things, and like when they retire, they don't just like stop ceasing to exist. They're still out there and working as spies, like the eyes of the Emperor is what they're called.
Yeah.
So like they're still, I agree with you guys to that point where it's like, yeah, they're supposed to be a very small skirmish type army, but with the most current lore, I think they did have to backtrack and kind of give lore to make them feel like a
like
faction.
an army. Like
yeah.
they had to make it make sense because they wanted to sell models and like have a range that people.
They saw, oh, Henry Cavill plays these guys. Give him more lore.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Henry Cavill likes them, so therefore I don't like them.
I don't understand your hate for Henry Cavill.
Because he's phony.
He's not.
He is.
He's not.
He is.
I think you should be deleted from the 40K universe.
I'm back.
Damn it.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Or maybe it worked for a split second.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the common thing, though, seems to be that there isn't as many models for the units that we're talking about, or they just feel smaller in the lore. Is there any major, like, well, I guess the Eldar, right? Well, I mean, the Drukhari. Because getting rid of Kamara would be a big thing.
Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah. Because they tried to do it with the Tyrannus. The Tyrannus invaded Kamara.
I have some honorable mentions.
Sure.
Knights.
Yeah.
I feel like they're too big. Like the scale is too much for what 40K is.
Yeah.
I get why they did it. They're really cool models, like I said. But like playing like three big, they're Titanicus, right?
Yeah.
So like they just feel like a different
game invading.
Yeah, a different
it.
battlefield than what we should be fighting. And my other one is orcs. Honorable mention. I don't actually think they should be deleted, but I thought about it because they're in the grim dark future. They're the goofy like wog like they just don't fit the aesthetic as well.
I agree that like the aesthetic, sometimes orcs are portrayed as goofy. And I know you're just trying to piss me off.
Grind your gears.
But this is a topic that we can talk about for October. I do think that sometimes GW goes over the top trying to make them goofy, and the artwork makes them look stupid. But if you read the lore, they're really, really gruesome, grim, dark, and disgusting.
I
things.
definitely think that they're grim dark, and they like the grim darkness of them belongs.
Yeah.
But there is just so much of that silly like.
But I feel like that's mostly old lore.
I mean, if you look at the way that they're portrayed even now in like the animated stuff, I think they're still goofy and like. I think it's still a problem, not just from old lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they should be more. They should be monsters. They should be monsters that just are out there in space and they know nothing but war, because even The Sound Alchemist got me a book. I forget what it's called, but it's about orcs.
The Bible.
The Bible. And it's reading it. It is very goofy. Like, it starts off with a bunch of boys on a Space Hulk. It's not even a Space Hulk. It's an Imperial cruiser that they stole. And then they're like, oh, they got called by like the big boss. And then the war boss or the knob that's on that ship goes like, well, how are we going to get to the other ship? Because we came here through like drop pods. And they're like, oh shit, yeah, I don't know. And it's like, you're a spacefaring like fucking race of destruction, and you don't know you could just take another cruiser to like that's too goofy. So I don't like that.
Yeah, if you don't like that, then I would stay away from the orcs in Blood Bowl.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a whole different thing, though, right?
That's
That's not
fantasy.
even like a real lore thing, is it?
Kind
It's
of.
like its own separate game.
Yeah.
You
Well,
got-
I even thought that was fantasy. It's not even.
It is
It
fantasy.
is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, it's not real life. It's
I'm not gonna tune in on Mondays and Sundays.
yeah,
Damn.
because they got cheerleader female orcs
Ew.
with like lipstick and boobs and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Blood Bowl's a different animal, though.
Yeah, it is.
I think we're all past tortas now.
Yeah. So then here's the question, though. You said you wanted them to be more monsters, right? Does
Yeah.
that mean take away their sentience, or you still want them to have like, kind of like with Necrons, where you have like the brainless just drones, and then you have like the knobs or like the war bosses that can actually think?
Yeah, no, I do think that each individual orc boy should still be autonomous and smart, but just be what it is. It's a killing machine.
Dial back on the goofiness and more like
Like Jason.
orcs in other
Yeah.
genres. Like they're just like scary motherfuckers.
Kind of.
Like Lord of the Ring orcs.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like that one with like all the bulb, like the pink head, and it had like weird
It
bulbs.
doesn't have to be that one. It could be the other ones.
Any of the
white scar.
I know what you're
White
talking
hand,
about.
Yeah. As long as they stay away from like even the goblins in The Hobbit, I feel are sometimes or they felt more menacing than sometimes
Oh, yeah.
orc stories.
So then what about like the cruel boys from like
Those look really
They look
badass.
really cool.
Yeah.
They look like Lord of the Rings orcs to me,
Yeah.
though. Like they're a different flavor too.
That's like scary. So
Yeah.
that grim darkness would be really
Right,
nice.
right.
So I guess in the next episode we should do what faction. How could we improve each faction? Because having skinny, fit, like toned orcs would be nice.
That's right.
Because that's what the other guys are.
Yeah.
Right? Or emaciated. I don't know what.
emaciated?
Yeah, because some of them are really skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But that's because they're like the run to the litter.
are they really?
I don't think they're short. They're just skinny. They're just weird swamp orcs.
Swamp orcs.
That's what that should have been swamp orcs instead of like forest orcs. That's what got them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, those are our choices for factions that need to get out of 40K. Let us know what you guys think about our interpretation,
Yeah.
our thoughts.
And I'm just happy nobody said Tau.
And that's a topic all on its own, too.
It
So
is.
much Tau hate. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk next time.
Yeah, as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist here with,
Crush one.
Docile creature.
and we are out of here.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.